have anybody who's watching the live stream to welcome you into this sacred space with us. The scripture reading for this morning comes from the Hebrew Bible book of Exodus, chapter 17, verses 1 through 7. The whole Israelite community broke camp and set out from the Sin desert to continue their journey as the Lord commanded. They set up their camp at Rephidim, but there was no water for the people to drink. The people argued with Moses and said, "Give us water to drink." Moses said to them, "Why are you arguing with me? Why are you testing the Lord?" But the people were very thirsty for water there, and they complained to Moses, "Why did you bring us out of Egypt to kill us, our children, and our livestock with thirst?" So Moses cried out to the Lord, "What should I do with this people? They're getting ready to stone me." The Lord said to Moses, "Go on ahead of the people and take some of Israel's elders with you. Take in your hand the shepherd's rod that you used to strike the Nile River and go. I'll be standing there in front of you on the rock at Horeb. Hit the rock. Water will come out of it, and the people will be able to drink." Moses did so while Israel's elders watched. He called the place Massah and Meribah, because the Israelites argued with and tested the Lord, asking, "Is the Lord really with us or not?" This is the word of life for today. Thanks be to God. So I want to share with you something that's been very powerful and impactful for me in my life lately. It's a video from Leon Bridges' song called "River." And in 2016, this video had a Grammy nomination for Best Music Video. Some say it gives a reflection on the 2015 Baltimore uprising with a word of healing and hope, and a reminder that hope supersedes injustice. There are scenes of pain in the video, but there are also scenes of healing and of resounding human resilience, because Bridges weaves in this narrative about water being a purifier and a restorer of hope. Bridges himself comes from a religious background. You can see him in an interview talking about when he was a child in his home, his mother would only allow him to listen to gospel music. And so anytime he got a chance, when she stepped out of the house, he would switch over to the pop station and listen to something else for a while. So he was heavily influenced by a rich tradition of gospel songs, which often use a river as a symbol for change and redemption. Those are two very important religious concepts in our Christian tradition: change and redemption, particularly in the season of Lent. Therefore, it's no surprise that in this song we hear some religious language. And I think that's one of the reasons why we can relate to this song, and why I think it also matches part of our reading today, because the Israelites who are complaining to Moses about water have been in the desert, traveling for many days, and they're thirsty. Listen to the first words of the song. It goes like this: "Been traveling these wide roads for so long. My heart's been far from you, 10,000 miles gone." It sounds a lot to me like the wilderness wanderings. But Bridges also wanted this song to convey some of his own personal spiritual experience, including his times of being down and depressed, or as he calls it, being in a hole, in a time of darkness. As he contemplates that he himself has had struggled to find hope in times in his life. He's carried several jobs at a time to support himself and his mother. And in those times he talks about clinging to his faith and finding his baptism. by way of the river. So listen to these words. In my darkness, I remember. Mama's words reoccur to me. Surrender to the good Lord, and he'll wipe your slate clean. And he says, take me to your river. I want to go. Take me to your river. I want to know. Bridges confessed he's been hateful to people. He's done wrong in his life. And he's lived in ways that, in his opinion, don't live up to a spiritual life. And he says, I'm not perfect. But the Lord doesn't care to leave me just because of the wrong that I've done. So, for his personal experience, he says, tip me in your smooth waters. I go in. As a man with many crimes, come up for air, and my sins flow down the Jordan. So the video, we've talked about the song, but in the video, it starts out in a hotel room where Bridges is playing his guitar, and there's a TV on, and on the TV, you're seeing footage from the 2015 Baltimore uprising, which occurred after the arrest and then the subsequent death of a man named Freddie Gray, a black man. And there's one particular scene in the video where there's a young girl who appears to be in deep thought. I would say she's about 8 or 9. She's sitting at her front door. It's a storm door, so you can look out the door, and she's sitting there on that threshold in the safety of her home, kind of gazing on the street, seeing passersby and things that are happening outdoors. But that threshold is really more than just a threshold of a door. It's the threshold between two worlds. Between our homes, where we want to be safe, we want to be protected from the germs, we want to feel loved and nurtured, a sense of belonging, having our basic needs met, and then on the other side of that threshold is the world, out there. The big out there where there's danger lurking and real things happen to real people, like shootings and pandemics and bullying. And I had a moment this week of relating to that young girl as she gazed out the door, as I was standing at my kitchen sink doing something, looking out the window. And as the voices of my children kind of faded in the background, my mind wandered off, thinking about all the open-ended things that exist in our world. Not only this virus that's keeping us at home, but also the status of the United Methodist Church, the elections. There's so many things that are yet to be revealed how they will. And all these things have consequences for us. Real life consequences for us and for our families. And as I realize that I have virtually no control over what happens, I'm tempted to shrink back, away from the reality, into the safety of my home, away from the worry, away from the fear, away from the pain, and just not encounter. Just like the Israelites said, now why did you take us out of our home? But we can't stay there. And in the video, the young girl doesn't stay there either. She ventures out into the street, almost in a daze. She gazes upon the passersby, and there's a small girl who walk by her, and they're wearing long, oversized white t-shirts. And they're migrating, they're making a pilgrimage to a small green plot of land inside the inner city. And there the gathering is larger, and there's a man with a white robe on, and he's holding a megaphone in one hand, and in the other hand he's holding a fire hose and spraying water all over these people. And she's watching them, and she's joining them, and she notices that they're celebrating. They're becoming drenched with those waters, even while the women have their plastic hats on to protect their hair. There's even a man playing a saxophone out there in the water. But she's noticing something very special about that group, is that they're happy, and they have something special. And we hear a woman's voice break in from the song, and she sings, "Wanna go, wanna go, wanna go." And then the video returns to the hotel room, and we see Bridges stop for a moment, listening. And you can hear raindrops falling on the roof of the hotel. And it's almost like the water is calling him. And the woman's voice says, "Wanna know, wanna know, wanna know." And he steps outside on the balcony into the rain, and he lets the rain wash over him. He captures him in his hand, and you see his head bow and drips of water pouring off of his nose and his forehead. The word water is used in the King James Version of the Bible 363 times. The plural of that, waters, 258 times. Compare that to the word love, 280 times. Stranger, 124 times. Widow, 49 times. Fatherless, 43 times. And there are numerous scenes and stories in the Bible where we see that God interacts with the water, and that we find God's presence there beside the water. At creation, when God's Spirit moved over the water, and then God took a firmament and separated the water from the earth. And then the great flood of Noah's time, where water covered the earth. And then when it started to recede, water went in the sky and made a rainbow. There was another time when Moses used his shepherd's rod over the rivers of the Nile River, and of the waters of the Nile River, and turned it into blood at God's command. There was the parting of the waters when the Israelites escaped from Egypt. And on this Sunday, one of the lectionary readings is the woman at the well, where Jesus offers her living water. And if you want to hear that story, you can come to worship at 4 o'clock and hear it read. Water is in all of creation, and it's part of our tradition that we associate the presence of God with water. 60% of our bodies are made of water. Water is just one little oxygen atom and 2 hydrogen. That is essential for life and pervasive throughout creation. One net negative and net positive makes for this property that we call cohesion, this attraction that water molecules have for one another. That's why it can do things like on your bulletin, you see that droplet of water on the front page, that is just this perfectly formed sphere of those water molecules magnetized to each other. Strong bonds between the hydrogen atoms. Cohesion, water's attraction to itself. It's also what allows water bugs to travel on top of the water and not sink down in it. Sometimes we, like the Israelites, don't miss the water till it's gone, until we notice that it's absent. But eventually, because it's such a part of who we are and what we need to thrive, our attraction to the water cannot be ignored anymore. A lot of times, Israel, in this scripture and other scriptures, gets a bad rap for being a complaining kind of people. But I commend them for using their agency to speak up and say, more than just a need, it's essential. We need it in order to grow. The world needs it. And from that rock, with Moses' shepherd's rod upon the rock in the most unlikely place and the most unlikely thing to produce water, God pours out from this huge resource, a great dipper of water, down into the little thimbles that we drink out of. The water is life-affirming for us. God's presence meets us there. And we too are in wilderness wanderings. The water has been there for eons. And through it, God established this magnetic connection for us. We want to go. And we want to know. We want to know that in this wilderness that we are walking through, that God is even closer than the air that we breathe, because there is water flowing in, around, and over us. And like the Israelites in their wilderness wandering, we come to find that we were never really separated